This is Kyle Davis with Taylor Ryan, and we're here today for episode 4 of our interview series. This podcast is brought to you by Taylor Ryan, strategic search and talent acquisition partner, specializing in construction and engineering, real estate, development, and accounting and finance, and made possible by Higher Technologies, redefining the future of talent acquisition. If you're building a team or looking for your next career move, there's more info at taylorryan.com. Also, I'm excited to say that this is our first episode that is officially in partnership with the Vancouver Regional Construction Association. With over 700 members, VRCA is BC's largest and most inclusive association, a business hub for ICI, residential and high-rise construction companies. VRCA provides resources to be informed, competitive, and successful now and in the future. You can learn more about membership benefits by visiting vrca.ca for more info. This week, we're joined by Dom Costantini, Vice President of Operations at Bird Construction, a general contractor providing construction services in energy, mining, commercial, institutional, retail, multi-tenant residential, industrial, water and wastewater, renewables, nuclear, and civil sectors across Canada since 1920. Of course, you can get more info at bird.ca. And Dom, you started your career in concrete, it looks like, with a small family-owned concrete company, and shortly afterwards began climbing the ranks at Bird, starting as a project coordinator and making your way eventually into your current role as Vice President of Operations. With over a decade in senior leadership roles, I am very happy to have the chance to ask you a few questions. So let's get into it. So first of all, I always like to ask, how and why did you get into construction?
Born into it, truly. My dad started a concrete business the year that I was born. Prior to that, he had worked in construction as a laborer and worked also at Supercrete Precast, which is now Lafarge. My grandfathers worked in concrete, my uncles. So I grew up in the business, and as a young teenager, would work weekends and in the summer with my dad and my uncles, and just grew up into it, and I really enjoy seeing things come out of planning and drawings into something that we can use. So it's been part of my upbringing from day one, I would say. So
you came by it honestly, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. My dad really had myself and my brother involved with the family business, and we were always working and had a lot of fun doing it. Built a lot of great relationships through it.
Absolutely. And there is something to be said about being able to turn around at the end of the day or at the end of a project and see what you've accomplished in a very real way, rather than the professions where it's all spreadsheets and Word documents. Having a final product at the end and you can turn around and say, we built that, is a really good feeling. What has been the greatest success that you've seen in your career to date?
For me, I would say it's about people, for sure, that I've encountered within Bird and outside of Bird. So building relationships, helping people grow in their careers has been one of the most rewarding experiences that I've had. Of course, truly, love delivering projects for community and owners and clients. There's no doubt about that. But I would say the number one thing is the opportunity to work with people and to help them build their careers and achieve their professional goals has been the most rewarding. There's no doubt about that.
Do you have any one instance that stands out in particular?
There, several instances where I've worked with someone who has progressed their career to higher levels than myself within the organization, and to be able to work with that individual and support them to achieve those goals for sure. A highlight is we had a receptionist who is now a project manager, and to have worked with this woman and just to see her grow and develop her capabilities and do amazing things in the construction field is pretty cool. I think that's a pretty great experience. Another one would be on the craft labor side. We hired an individual who was struggling personally, and eventually, got some stability. He's been a regular contributor to our group for a long time, and I saw him on a job site, and he said to me, because of this job, I've been able to buy a house, my first house, and stuff like that makes it worthwhile for sure when you can see people achieving their goals personally through the good work we're doing.
What has been the greatest lesson that you learned from your time in the industry, or one that stands out?
Communication is so vital for sure. Clear, concise, consistent communication is vital internally in an organization and externally. When I was a project manager, I realized I needed to communicate the project goals in many different ways. So people have different styles of learning. Of course, they have different backgrounds, different experiences. And so you have to modify your message to capture as many people in the audience. And sometimes you do that through letters and words, written words. Sometimes you do it through pictures and imagery. And sometimes you got to do it by showing. And so I think one of the things I learned quickly is you need to adapt your communication to the audience. Because when someone doesn't understand what you're trying to achieve or doesn't achieve the goal that you've set for the project or your business, it boils down to understanding. Do they understand? And, I'll admit that I didn't learn it initially. It took a little bit of practice. And when you stumble a couple of times, you go, okay, why didn't I get the outcome I was hoping for? And then you sit down with people and you realize, okay, I needed a different strategy. And so one of the things that we do at Bird is we use a behavior tool called DISC, and it allows us to understand people's work styles, what motivates them, and I've done some other training on neuro-linguistic programming to understand how people do learn, and that's definitely helped me. And so adjusted my style. Some people have called it style flex within the organization, and I agree with that statement. You got to flex your style, and I think you get better results when you do that.
Yeah, really great point about making sure that your message is understood across the project team. And of course, there are different types of learners. Some people learn through listening, some people learn through doing, some people learn through seeing. But of course, as a leader, it's your responsibility to make sure that they understand, not theirs.
Right.
Yeah. What is there any advice that you ever received that is particularly memorable, or that that you still hold to at this point in your career?
I would say from my dad, empathy is one of the things that he definitely taught me. When I worked with him and I was starting to manage the business, I would have to drive from job site to job site while the crew was out working in the heat. And, he said to me, you just can't roll up to a job site in your air-conditioned truck, step out, and start correcting and giving orders on how something should be done. So I drove around with the windows rolled down and never used the air conditioning, and started to figure out that some of the older guys in the crew, you show up and you talk about other things first and listen to their concerns and understand what's important to them, and then they support you. So I learned that from my dad. I would say the other thing that I tell lots of people that join our team, especially in junior roles, when you're part of a team, and again, going back to a sports analogy, game time starts at 7 p.m. There's 3 periods, maybe there's overtime and a shootout or sudden death playoff overtimes. You show up when the game starts. Actually, you show up for the warm-up. I think that definitely is something that when I worked with some of the more experienced guys in the team, they'd start early. I would show up early. They stayed late. You stay late, and you're in it together. So I think that for me is you win as a team. And of course, there are times where you take a shift off. Right, yeah. It does happen. Right, you go back to the dressing room to get a stitch.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it's empathy and the teamwork part, and working together as best you can.
That's a great analogy. I mean, like you said, we use sports analogies all the time in our industry. But that one, I think, resonates particularly well. Just, game time's at 7, but you show up for the warm-up. And, there might be overtime. There might be a shootout. You might take a shift off. That, I think, might be one of the best analogies I've heard of, any career, but particularly in construction. I like that a lot. We're talking about interviews a second ago. What do you look for when you interview someone?
We look for the signs of humility, for sure. Obviously, capability and experience gets in the door, for sure. But the right character for us is big. And then, do we see them as a good fit with the team? Will they gain? Will they gain as much as we will gain? So it has to be a mutually beneficial relationship. I think values alignment is the other thing, and resourcefulness. So depending on the level, we've in the Winnipeg district we introduced a practical test, 16 questions based on a set of drawings and a real project that we constructed. And we give these are generally for junior staff, students, co-ops, and we give them an hour. And to finish the test in an hour is very challenging. But the other part that we tell them is they can use their phone, they can phone a friend, they can ask anybody in the office.
Interesting.
So it's kind of cool when you see a student walking around the office with the question sheet going, is there somebody who can help me with this one answer? Everybody knows when someone's in, right, for this part of the interview, the process for the test, and someone gets poked, they'll go around the office and ask someone for help on a question. They go help them, right? And that's what it really is about for us, is teamwork, right? And memorization and working alone isn't necessarily something that's expected. Like, you have lots of resources around you, use them. So that's kind of a fun way for us to gauge the teamwork approach and resourcefulness for us.
And what a great experience for the candidates who are then fortunate enough to be offered a position at Bird. I mean, one of their first interview experiences, they learned that without even being an employee, there are people there who are willing to help them out when they have trouble. So I can't even imagine like the degree of comfort that would provide a brand new employee walking into the building, already knowing that people are willing to help. There's enough nerves on your first day of a new job, but having that small degree of comfort must go a long way. What do you think marks a good company culture? How do you know when you're working for a company that has a good culture?
Tenure for sure. When you see tenure in the double digits, I think that reflects well. Values that they support and live by, and reinforce by investing. We talk about professionalism and training and developing people. But on any training programs, that would I think you gotta put your money where your mouth is, and so that for me definitely is a clear indication is the commitment level. I would say that's it. Repeat clients for me, where they have a strong foundation of working for the same clients over and over again, definitely reflects well. And for sure, employee engagement. If you have a really engaged group and you have repeat clients and you have values alignment and you have strong performance and quality, safety, and profitability. You need to be profitable so you can continue to invest, right, back in the business and in people. And you end up having a high-performing team when all those things are together.
So, yeah, great synergy. How do you, encourage your teams when they're having a tough time? Like, how do you facilitate high performance from them, or how do you help to pick them up when they're stumbling?
Focus on short-term goals, small goals, right? So build momentum. Base hits is something that I've talked about with my team quite a bit. Focus on base hits with an ultimate goal to win. Leverage the strength of others because with a company with almost 5,000 employees now, somebody's experienced this before. Someone's overcome this challenge. And so be brave, courageous enough to go ask for help or to go ask someone who knows something about this. So I think it's easier in a team to overcome a challenge. Suffering in silence alone and plugging away on something for 8 hours by yourself. Like for me, I like to do things within a team. I think pulling in the strengths of individuals, using sports analogies, which I know we use a lot of in our industry, but everybody's got a role to play.
That's right.
You can't play all 5 positions on the ice.
Yeah.
You can't be goalie, forward, and defense. You just can't.
Yeah. Well, not everybody needs to be the quarterback, right?
Right.
Sometimes you need a kicker. Sometimes the kicker wins the game, right? But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's so much harder suffering alone, or maybe not suffering. It's so much harder working through a really tough challenge alone. But just like anything, a lot of hands make light work. So, being brave enough to stand up and ask for help and getting your team involved, can add a little bit of fun, a little camaraderie, and definitely, help to work through that. I like that a lot. I'm taking notes here, actually, personally for myself. So this is really helpful. I like it. What challenges do you think we're facing right now in the construction industry? The biggest ones?
I would say innovation and technology. The pace of change in technology and innovation is the greatest that I've seen. The last, obviously, technology has been growing leaps and bounds through COVID. It's accelerating, so we're seeing lots of that happening, and some really cool technologies that are being developed and coming. So, I think it's a matter of time where we start to see productivity improving, quality improving, safety improving. And we've, compared to manufacturing, if you talk to anybody in our industry, our productivity is not increased at the same rate as manufacturing or agriculture. The other factor is attracting more talent into the industry. A lot of young people are, especially right now, are struggling to find jobs in retail and hospitality sectors, and I would encourage them to think about construction, whether that's in the trades, where I started, so many others. You don't have to stay in the trades. That could just be your starting off point, and you might want to stay in the trade. It's a great career. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think I hope people think about our industry to join it. That would be number one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've been experiencing a skilled shortage as well as a trades shortage for a long time. So definitely encouraging more people to join the industry is very important. Well, that's it. That's all the questions I have for you today. Thanks so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And for those listening, if you enjoyed this interview, please follow us on YouTube and on LinkedIn so you don't miss the next one.